If you're a big swim team and you like to order a lot of gear, maybe you ought to check out Swim Outlet Team Division for these reasons. Swim teams receive a 10% discount on bulk orders. Swim teams or organizations get an 8% commission on referred sales. You'll also like their customization services, which is affordable and available at all times during the year for all team gear. With over 50,000 items in stock, you can get most anything you want. Swim Outlet Team Division. You need to try it out. You'll be glad you did.
This is the Morning Swim Show for Friday, August 23rd, 2013. I'm your host, Jeff Commings. The Junior World Swimming Championships begins Monday in Dubai, and though a certain Olympic champion scheduled participation is making headlines, we could see many rising teenagers take the spotlight as well. On today's show, we'll mention some of the top names we could see do some serious damage in the pool, and joining me to talk about it in the Finis Monitor is Swimming World correspondent David Rieder. David, it's good to see you again. How are you?
I'm all right, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
Our pleasure. So this meet certainly gained a lot more attention when the organizers announced that Olympic and world champion Ruta Meilutyte decided she was going to swim in the meet. And reports indicate she's going to be swimming the breaststroke events in which she holds the world record. What do you think about this?
I think it's a little bit odd that someone of her caliber, someone with two world titles and world records, or excuse me, one world title and two world records from Barcelona, would want to go to swim with technically her peers, but certainly people that are much slower than her at the World Junior Championships. Honestly, I thought FINA would be involved in this. I figured there would be a rule that said once you have competed at the FINA World Championships, or at least made the final, there'd be restrictions against swimming at the Junior World Championships. I know USA Swimming has similar rules. I guess you can't fault her for swimming within the rules, but I don't think it's good that she's going to be there. I think the competition should be reserved for up-and-comers, such as people that haven't gone 104 in the 100 breaststroke.
Right, and you know, if you look at the past three editions of the Junior Worlds, it's a great developmental meet. We've had so many people who have gone on to do well in the Olympics and World Championships, so it's not to say there aren't fast swimmers in this meet, but this is going to be the first time we're going to see somebody like that. And you know, yeah, it's bringing attention to the meet, but I don't know if any of the swimmers are going to think the same thing, that it's going to be a positive thing.
Yeah, it's definitely supposed to be a meet for these up-and-comers, and I know not all the swimmers are happy about it. I've seen on Twitter already, Maya Roses, who won the 100 breaststroke at Junior Nationals, she seemed a little bit frustrated with the fact that, you know, her best time is like 5 seconds away from what Meilutyte did in Barcelona. She knows she's not going to win. She knows she has to race the world record holder. And it's frustrating for these swimmers, I think, and that's why it really isn't fair.
Do you think that Meilutyte is going to be faster or as fast as she was in Barcelona?
Well, I think it depends on if she focuses on this meet, if she tapers for the meet. I think I'd imagine the energy won't be as intense. I'd imagine she won't be as motivated to swim fast, but really, if she wants to, you never know. She could be just as fast, maybe even faster.
Well, as I said earlier, this has become a big developmental meet internationally, and we've seen some Olympic champions, some Olympic medalists make their start in this meet. And you know, it's scary to think that of all the names that we kind of know that are going to be in the meet outside of Meilutyte, that we could see the next Camille Muffat or Kosuke Hagino or you know, even Florent Manodou come out of this meet.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, people, especially the young swimmers in the longer distances, the 400 IMs, the distances, or the distance freestyles, those have all become younger events in recent years. Daya Sato, who just won the 400 IM world title, wasn't at the Olympics. You think of the American distance swimmers, such as Connor Yeager and Michael McBroom, both of these guys relatively new to the international stage. It's really easy in those longer events for people that are stud youngsters to come up and make an impact on the international scene. I mean, you think about Yannick Agnel. He was dominating the junior circuit back in 2009. 2 years later, he's in the final at World Championships in the 200 free, and then a year after that, he's the Olympic gold medalist. Certainly, some of these names that we see in Dubai have a really good shot at being on the podium in Rio in 2016 and probably making an impact even before that.
Well, it's going to be hard for us to gauge who outside the United States could make an impact because we haven't seen a lot of these swimmers swim. But one person I have seen swim is Australian distance swimmer Mac Horton, who got second in the 1500 at the Australian World Trials, just missed making the world team by a second, went under 15 minutes for the first time. I think obviously he's going to be dominant. I don't think there's going to be anybody else who could approach going under 15 minutes in Dubai. And I think he just wants to prove that he should have been on that World Championship team.
Right. Definitely a bit of a controversial decision for Australia not to include him, since they had some especially fast time standards to achieve back in April. I think this will be a big swim for Australia in general. The 1500's always been a big event for them, going back to Grant Hackett and Perkins and Kowalski before him. And it was sort of for the past 4 years, there wasn't much. And then Jordan Harrison came in this year and was 14:53, I think. He was in the final at the Worlds. And I think Australia has to really like being back, having two swimmers under 15 minutes, when for years before they didn't have anyone under 15 minutes. And it's definitely a bit of a resurgence in that country for the distance swimmers.
Yeah, and they've got to be happy that they're both under 20 years old. It gives them, they've got a little bit of longevity in the sport. It's not like they're 25 and all of a sudden breaking out and may only be around for only one more Olympics.
Yeah.
Well, on the American side, it's, I can't really figure out who's going to have a breakout meet. I can't just pick just one person because obviously looking at the results from junior nationals, everybody that made the world team has a lot of potential to do well on the international scene. I'm going to try to just pick two on each side. I'm going with Andrew Seliskar and Gunnar Bentz on the men's side, and then on the women's side, Ella Easton and Katie McLaughlin. I think they're both going to do well. Katie's obviously and Gunnar are going to be swimming a lot of events, so they're going to be names we're going to be seeing a lot of. But I think it's just going to be really just fascinating to see how they respond to being the future of American swimming.
Right, I agree. At junior nationals, all of them really had swims that say, I want to be on the next national team. And I think they will be on these national teams pretty soon. You look at Easton, for example. She dropped 10 seconds in the span of a day in her 400 IM, and she went 4:38. Only Elizabeth Beisel and Maya Dorado have been faster among Americans, and both of them, and they finished third and fourth at the Worlds, respectively. And so Easton, she's never been in a big final. I mean, I don't even know if she was at Olympic trials. I think she was. She didn't do much there. Definitely has a really good chance to make an impact and say, hey, I'm coming. For McLaughlin, her best event's the 200 fly. She was third at World Champ Trials. Again, big chance to show I can be big time in this event in one of the weaker events for the American women. And yeah, she has some versatility. She'll be also swimming the 100 fly, 50 and 200 free. She would be in the 100 free if she wasn't DQ'd at junior nationals. And so she's also going to help a lot on those relays. She is definitely going to be a big force in Dubai, but I think also down the line. On the men's side, Gunnar Bentz was probably the star of juniors in that 400 IM and the 200 breaststroke. Just big time last 50s, closing speed like we have never really seen. He came home in a 33 mid in the 200 breaststroke, which is faster than a lot of the guys did at Worlds. His 400 IM breaststroke freestyle splits were absolutely unreal, and his 200 IM, like you've been saying when you interviewed him the other day, he wants to go under 2 minutes, and Seliskar wants to go under 2 minutes, and we're going to see some really great racing, I think, among those two guys in the 200 IM and really for the whole meet, and they could rack up some medals.
Obviously, people like Gunnar and Andrew, who are trying to break 2 minutes in 200 IM, they've still got a long way to go to break through on that, be able to go to, say, Pan Pacs next year, because obviously they've got somebody like Ryan Lochte, they've got Connor Dwyer in the 200 IM, Chase Kalish in the 400 IM. So it's not easy for them to be able to break through, but I bet you they know, their time could be coming, and maybe it won't be 2016, but if they start now, 2020, by 2020 they could be the new faces.
Yeah, especially in recent years with American men's swimming having gotten a lot older, with the likes of Brendan Hansen and Aaron Pearsall sticking around into their late 20s or even 30. And so it's definitely harder to make an impact on the U.S. team when you're a teenager. But someone like Seliskar swam 156 in the 200 fly, and that would have placed second ahead of Tyler Clary at World Champ Trials. And so maybe he's got a chance to get on to make an impact sooner than we all think. You never, when they're that young, you really just never know how fast they'll improve. I actually talked to Seliskar's coach, John Flanagan, not too long ago, and he says, last year when Seliskar went to Junior Pan Pacs, he'd been dropping time all summer, dropped even more at Junior Pan Pacs, so maybe he'll be dropping even more time in Dubai at the Junior Worlds. And if he does, that could really send a message that, especially in the 200 fly, he'll be a player next summer.
Well, I think he's probably really motivated by what his teammate Katie Ledecky did at World Championships. Both of them are just doing so well for Nations Capital. I think probably, a lot of people were probably wondering how Nations Capital is going to do once Bruce Gimmel took over as head coach, and it looks like everything is just rolling right along tremendously for that club. I would imagine Andrew knows that, everybody's got their eyes on what Nations Capital is doing, and he wants to prove that it's not just Katie Ledecky's team. It's a team that has a lot of depth and a lot of strengths in it. And I think he, like you said, he's got the second fastest 200 fly in the United States right now. I think that's got to be motivation for him. Maybe he's thinking, I want to be the fastest now.
Yeah, it's definitely, that club went through a bit of a rough stretch the past couple of years, but a lot of tradition, and they've really come back quickly. A bunch of different, but it's a very big club, a lot of different sites. But there's a very strong team atmosphere behind Nations Capital, and I think that's really helped them bounce back. And what Katie Ledecky did at Worlds has got to be motivation for everyone on that team. Even though Selesgar's a little bit older than her, it's got to be just incredibly motivating to see her do so well. And I think his time will be coming soon.
Well, we were talking about some of these events to watch out for. Obviously, like I said, all eyes will be on Ruta Meilutyte and the breaststroke events. One more name I just thought is going to really stand out is Caleb Dressel. 3 national age group records in the span of 2 months in the 50, 100, and 200 freestyles. I was, when he swam that 51, I believe it was 5 in 100 free at nationals, I mean, everybody just probably was like, oh my goodness, this kid is going to be amazing. And then he goes and does well in the 50 and the 200. I think this is going to be a really good meet for him to continue to show his versatility, because not many people this day and age are good in the 50, the 100, and the 200. They're either good in the 50 and the 100, or they're good in the 100 and the 200. To be able to do all 3, I think is going to raise his stock as colleges start to look at him too.
Yeah, I agree. Dressel's definitely a name to watch. I mean, being in the final of the 100 free at World Champ Trials, that's probably his best event, and he could be on a relay pretty soon with the 6 spots they take. And definitely, I mean, and the 200 going 148, also a really good shot to be on a U.S. team sooner rather than later. But he's incredibly versatile, and he's got really good training group. Santo Condorelli was really pushing him in those sprints at juniors, and they've got Joe Schooling from Singapore also at Bulls. He's a guy that's definitely on the rise, and he's got to be a name to watch out for, especially for those guys who are fringe candidates to get on that relay. He'll be one of them pretty soon, and then once he's in college, definitely could be a star for the U.S. sprinting.
Yep, sky's the limit. Well, the meet starts next week. I know you're excited, just as excited as I am, to see what the future is going to hold for not just American swimming, but swimming around the world. So thanks for sharing your insights. And I understand you're off to sophomore year at Duke University now.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Should be a good year.
Well, I'm looking forward to it as well. Keep us posted on how things are going, David.
Yeah, Jeff. Thanks so much for having me.
My pleasure. All right, so the Junior World Championships, as I said, begins next week, Monday to be specific, in the United Arab Emirates. And Swimming World will bring you recaps from the meet on swimmingworld.com, on Facebook, and on Twitter. That's a wrap for today's edition of the Morning Swim Show. We'll see you on Monday. I'm Jeff Cummings. Thanks for watching.